500 years from now, when the little green man lands in the spaceship, after they've been observing us for all this time, one thing they're going to find that hasn't changed, the school will still be here.
It's hard. It's also easy. On a day-to-day basis, there's the struggles of dealing with poor infrastructure. Not a lot of paved roads. You're out driving quite a ways. But also the benefits of it are you have your extended family around you. You have your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. Very rewarding in terms of being close to one's family, being able to live life kind of in a reflective way. I really like it here.
When we were placed on reservations, there was a mentality that we weren't smart enough to be professional people. So instead, we were sent off to trade schools. The most famous of these was Carlisle Indian School. So that history followed us as Indian people. And then in the 1950s, you started to see, a trickle of Indian people, maybe 5 to 10 across the nation that went to institutions of higher education.
We struggled with having enough books to use. Now we've got internet. Now we've got computers. Now we've got laptops. But still, in this general area, we lack a lot of the technology that most cities or populated areas have.
One of the things that I tell my students is when we get it right for Native American children, we're going to have it right for everybody in the nation. Because while we feel our children are being deprived the education that they should receive, there are a lot of other children that have been subjected to practices that aren't good for them. And one day we're going to get it right. And that's one of the things that keeps me here, is I know we're going to get it right. I think the other is knowing that the majority of the individuals that are in our teacher preparation program would not be in college if it weren't for Oglala Lakota College.
As a result of the creation of our college came into existence in 1971, so we're over 40 years in existence. And the success that we always talk about is that if you'd have come to our reservation in the 1950s, you might have seen 1 or 2 teachers that were Indian. As a result of our college being on the reservation, of the over 200 teaching positions on the reservation, 100 of them are now filled by Indian people, and 86% of those teachers that are Indian are graduates of our college.
This kind of change in K-12 education, which used to be very much guided by the federal government, now is much more diverse and getting more tribal input into that educational process. Parallel to that is the evolution of the tribal colleges. OLC began to realize that there was a need for more than just a 2-year institution here. And Black Hills State, that relationship, of course, is a little rocky. Black Hills State saying, well, this is what you can do, and the people down here saying, we want to do more. And it evolved very quickly into the college achieving its own accreditation, branching out beyond the 2-year program into first bachelor's degrees and now master's degrees. And hopefully over time at the PhD level. We'll have to see how that evolves.
OLC is continuing their growth by bringing in more and more areas to graduate from, more degrees, a wider variety. They are striving to keep up with the race.
Well, the biggest challenge that our students face is that you find this in a lot of minority communities in the nation. They've come from schools that did not prepare them well for going into higher education. As a result of that, we have placement tests that we give our students to see if they have the requisite skills to take college courses. The problem that we have is 2/3 of our student body, when they come in as incoming freshmen, have to go into remedial courses. Out of those remedial courses, only 1/3 of those students that go into remedial courses can then go into college level courses. So the net result is that we don't have entrance requirements. We have an open admission, and we try to give everybody the chance to succeed.
I have to be careful, don't I?
You have to be careful.
I would say that it has shown improvement. Things have improved. But I would also say, remember the little story I told you about the spaceship and the little green man? Much is still the same because of the structures and the imposition of things by political entities such as the federal government, the state legislature, the tribal council, by people sitting in the office someplace that wouldn't know what it's like in the field if they were there.
It's telling, too, as an institution, looking at OLC, that one of the first master's degrees that they developed was a master's degree in Lakota leadership. that program was really looking at what is Lakota leadership. And then from that, it was a really interesting construct because they said, here's Lakota leadership, and then everything else that we do in terms of preparing, regardless of the content area, should have as a core an understanding of what it is to have Lakota leadership, which support of the language, support of cultural activities, understanding the context of the reservation and the history and the culture. And so the people coming out of there with those advanced degrees have a much deeper understanding of the reservation than they might get at an off-reservation graduate program.
A lot of times people can't afford to quit their jobs and go away to school. It's nice to have something here close to home where you can get a quality education.
So the reality of that is, because of financial poverty of the reservation and for many candidates and their families, they look upon stipends and things like that is really as a source of income. And if going to town and buying food for children, gas for the car, clothes, stuff, is a part of that, that's what we're going to spend that money on. It's a source of income. So it's a different picture than a lot of people have about stipends and that kind of thing.
We haven't done any surveys, but I think clearly we are kind of a shining light for people who want to change their lives. That if you want to change your life and not be in poverty, we have a lot of stories where people have had alcoholism problems and or drug problems, and when they make that decision that I'm going to stop these type of disruptive behaviors in their lives, they also then make the choice to come to college. It's probably immeasurable, clearly substantial, the impact that we have on this reservation. We not only produce graduates, we produce an environment where students can come to college.
OLC has stepped up to the plate because they now realize that it's not just enough to graduate a student. We have to follow them. We have to make sure that they're doing okay. So there's communication that goes on back and forth.
A lot of the instructors that I have, they don't care if you call them, they don't care if you text them, they get back to you right away on their emails. You know, if you have questions, whether it's personal or professional, they're there to give you that extra oomph.
What you'll find in our curriculum is similar to what you would find in other teacher preparation programs. Things that we do try to emphasize are critical pedagogy, a constructivist approach to learning, and we also try to offer a curriculum that is culturally relevant and encourage our students to do the same.
I've had down-to-earth instructors that really, they give you the facts about what's going to be happening in class. They give you the facts about education. I feel confident that I'm going to go into a classroom and be able to teach. I feel like I'm prepared.
OLC always sent out a survey. What could we have done more? What needs to be done? What improvements can we make for the teaching program?
I think our graduation rate is going up. I think there's always people that want to be teachers, and the need for teachers is exceptional. There's a couple of vacancies right now across the reservation that are unfilled.
So I guess in many ways we are dependent upon OLC's work. But I think it's kind of this interdependence, this way of working with each other. I've always been impressed with the faculty at Oglala Lakota College and their ability to connect into the community, which is, I won't say atypical of higher education, but it's probably at a greater level than I see in other higher education institutions.
I think it's improving the reservation. I think there's more people ready for the workforce.
Native American teachers have a tendency to stay within their home communities. A big part of that has to do with family and staying where your family is at. So while we are preparing our candidates to be able to teach anywhere, we know that they're going to stay here, and we want to have the best prepared candidates that we can, serving the children who need them most.
And I think most of our students, of course they're 18 and they want to see the world, but many of them, particularly between that 18 and 22-year-old period, they start realizing that all of this, what I'm learning, I need to bring back home. I need to be able to bring back home. So some of them leave, maybe with the intent of never coming back, but they almost always do. They almost always come back. And it's because I think of that connection to family, that recognition that this is a unique place. This is their home. They don't have an immigrant tradition here, where a lot of other people in the United States have this, go west young man kind of mentality that started with Europeans coming here and then moving across the continent. This is not the tradition that is here. And so looking at education as a way to move somewhere else isn't really the purpose of education. It's how do we improve where we live? How do we improve our tioshpai? How do we improve our families?
Now we are trying to graduate students with careers that will only better the reservation. It will make it closer to a small city.
I've seen an increase in the parking lot. You see more cars, you see more students, you see fuller classes.
I'm seeing, particularly with the advent of the internet and the ability of people to get online courses, the ability of people to expand, that I think we're going to see a growth in education as a very real part of people's lives.
We really want quality. That's the ultimate goal for me and for our department, is quality educators.
I think there's always room for conversation, which is at the core of education, that idea of people sitting, thinking, looking at the world and trying to make their world a better place. That is kind of paramount to what education is, and it's important for our community to continue that struggle.